Lovely to see you. Great to be here. It's just a beautiful day. I'm not going to waste any time. Oh, I should say who I am. My name is Oneness Evolving, and I'm out here in my front garden because, and let me show you the front garden. I'm out here in my front garden because I've just spent the morning writing, and I'm about to tell you what I've been writing, but because this is a Facebook Live, I always take a little bit of time to just enjoy the world outside, waiting for this live to come up on Facebook so it can be shared out to groups, and so you have a chance to come on if you're one of those people that blesses me with your presence while I am live. And meanwhile, you get to enjoy one of the favourite things, which for me is this beautiful lawn, which comes, hi Mike, good to see you, comes from the cherry tree, which is absolutely at its best. Hello beautiful people, it's lovely to see you. Look at the sky. It's you, Marilyn. G'day, honey. And yeah, there's an aeroplane up there being noisy, but look at this. It's just very beautiful here, so I just want to make the most of it. I will go inside to talk, but look at this. Look at the detail here. Come on, give me some focus. Look at that. Whether you call it autumn or call it fall, it is my favourite season. Here's the magnolia doing its amazing detail. And I'm really enjoying just the colours and the quiet. It's really quiet out here. And this I can show you. This is the change in the garden. I mean, we've still got the fuchsias. And I mean, look at that. That's sunshine coming through the fence. And the flowers, which just never get old to me. They're fabulous. And I mean, it's getting cold, but they just keep going. But the thing that's different here is this corner is now empty. I did take the aucuba out because it was old and sick. And so everything had, there's been an upheaval, but I've weeded and I've moved things. And there are some little onions here which were very smothered. And if you're wondering why there are all the sticks, it's because if you don't have sticks, the cats dig. And I like cats, but I don't like them when they dig up my garden. So, yeah, cat sticks. And look at the coriander. Isn't that just luxurious? So beautiful in the sunshine. I love the movement. It's very still here. It's beautiful. So, yeah. That's the big event. We had a long weekend, so I had 2 garden sessions, and it was just lovely. And here is the day. Limbs? I'm missing something. Oh, yes, the limbs, right. Yeah, oh no, those limbs are from much bigger things. I realise what you're talking about. There's what's left of the aucuba over here. I'll show you on my way in. Because I cut all the bits off because they'll get mulched. And of course it's cold, so nothing's drying. And there is the bush itself, upside down. It's quite beautiful. Roots on top and the pruned bits underneath. So that's the aucuba, and I took another tree out that had just got old and was dying. So we made space. I cleared things. So there's the last look at the garden. Until next year, it'll never be as beautiful. It's my favourite time. So, I'm going to go inside now and tell you what I've been writing about today. And on my little notepad where I make notes, one of the things I said is it's a bit of an untangling. And it really has been an untangling this morning. So let me just go in and tell you about it. So, inside. Take off the hat, not needed here. I don't like squinting in the sunshine. I like the sunshine, but I don't like squinting. So, and I better shut the door. Right. So, just put my phone on a stand. Sit myself back. Try and get things level. There we go. All right. So, today, I've been carrying on writing about theta. If you think, what the hell do you mean theta, and why are you writing about theta, and what's the deal? Well, I'm interested in, because it's been so important to me, I'm interested in the process of change and transformation for myself. Never mind for anyone else. It's been so empowering for me to learn this about myself and my brain and how it works, that I've decided to write it down in my words and in my way, very simply, because I think things need to be simple, and put it on a website and somehow make that information available to people who really can't pay for it at all. But at the same time, have a paid service that is really worth paying for, which is still going to be, it's not going to be huge and expensive. I don't think that's the right model. But the first thing you want to do when you're going to build a website is you have to write the content. So right now I'm writing a content. It may end up being a book, but first it's a website. And just because I feel like saying it, writing for the web is a distinct skill, and it's different, and it's not the same as writing for print, and it's not the same as writing for a book. But because I work in websites, I've developed this skill with web online content, and so, I'm writing this information for online. But like I say, it may turn into a book. So today, I looked back on what I did last week, and I started off on theta and the 5 brainwaves that it states that our brains most commonly are in. Actually, there's 4 that we're most commonly in, and then there's a 5th one, and then there are the others that are really extreme, because there's actually more than 5. But for most of us, we go through 4 distinct kinds of brainwaves in our brain twice a day. When we're asleep, we're in delta brainwaves. And that's really slow. It's 0.5 to 4 cycles a second. And then as we're in the process of waking up, we're not awake, we're not asleep, we're right in between worlds. When your dreams are you're still in your dreams, but you're waking up and you're wondering if the dream is real or not, or you think the dream is real, and then you wake up and realize, I was dreaming. Then you're in theta. The brain is working from 4 to 8 cycles per second. And then when you start to wake up, but maybe you're lying in bed and you're relaxing, you're just thinking about stuff and, being creative, imagining things in your mind, just chilled out, then you're in alpha, and that's 4 to 12 cycles a second. So your brain's going faster, but you're still inwardly focused and you're in your own mind, And then when you get up and you start doing things and you start, putting on clothes and having food or whatever you're doing, and you go and see somebody and you do things and you're interacting with your external world, then you're on beta brainwaves. And beta brainwaves go from 13 to about 18, 20, I can't remember the ranges, up to about 28 cycles a second, because I wrote about it recently. And there's 3 bands of beta as well. There's not just beta brainwaves, there's low range, there's mid range, and there's high range beta. Low range beta is probably what you're in as you listen to me now. You're paying attention, you're hopefully chilled out, you're relatively relaxed, you're just taking in information from around your world. And maybe you're even thinking about the thing you're going to do next, but you're listening. If you're just talking with people or hanging out or doing stuff, but you're relaxed and chilled, you're in low beta. If you're in mid-range beta, so low beta is about 13 to 15 cycles a second, I think that's about right, and then 16 to 18 you're in mid-range beta, and that's like if you're about to go on stage and you're doing a performance, or you're going to walk into an exam, or you're going for an interview, but you're prepped, you're not freaking out, you're prepped, you're ready, but you're kind of primed for performance. And then if you get into the 19, the 20s, and the 28 cycles a second, your brain's gone into high beta. Now you're freaked out. Now you're stressed. Now your brain has identified a threat in the environment around you that says, I need to fight, I need to run away, or I need to hide. Otherwise, I'm going to die. It's in survival mode, as opposed to being relaxed, chilled out, able to do things, able to perform, able to, whatever. So 5 brainwave states, and I've been writing descriptions about them and talking about how they work inside our brains as we're born, and then as we grow up and we start to lay down unconscious memories, being the 95% of ourselves that we don't even know is there. Right? 95% of who you are, and this is a scientific fact, and I need to go and find the report that says it, but it is an acknowledged fact. If you look up the internet, you will find I'm not telling you lies. 95% of who we think we are and what we do and everything about who we think we are and what we do and what we say and all of that it's 95% of it is unconscious, and we're not controlling it. And I mean, the example I thought of is, you wake up in the morning and you've got a big day ahead of you. And you've got, you're working, I'm going to see this person, I'm going to do that, and I need to take this with me. And, and you're really busy planning your day. And your brain is totally focused on that. It's like when you're busy doing something and somebody said something, you're just like, oh, and 5 minutes later, it's like, what? And they say, why didn't you do the thing? It's, I wasn't paying any attention. You're just not there. You're totally focused on what you're doing inside your own mind. All the time you're getting dressed, you're making your breakfast, you're eating it, you're looking after your body, you're doing what you need to do. And then you walk out the door and realize, oh my God, it's freaking freezing out there and I don't have my jacket. Where were you? You were busy planning your day. You were off thinking about lunch and the meeting in the afternoon. Hi, Laura. Hi, Eric. You were planning all of that. You weren't thinking about what clothes to put on. You had no concept of what was going on outside your house because you were just busy planning your life. So, brain state. But while you were busy planning your life, all of those unconscious things are things that most of them you would have learned when you were less than 7 years old. And if you didn't learn them by then, you would have learned things that were built on the things that you learned by then. You know how to walk, how to talk, how to use your hands, how to handle being in your environment with the people that you're familiar with and the way they talk to each other. And so, children speak like their parents and the way that they relate to other people. And so children relate to other people because they imitate their parents. They relate to other people like they learn from their parents. Oh my God, that's scary. Really. You have a child that they're really not listening to what you say, but they absorb everything that you do because their brain is in theta, which was the point that I've been trying to make. And theta is a hypnotic state. I spoke about that last week. And when you're in theta, your brain is not working fast enough to think, that person's behaving really badly. I don't think I want to be like that person. You only get to have a brain that can do that after you're 7 or 8. Your brain's just not working fast enough to make any decisions about what's right or wrong. It all goes in. So I've been struggling a bit today because at the end of last week, I sort of brain dumped a whole lot of stuff. This is what I know about theta. This is some of what I want to explain about theta. And I looked at it this morning and actually rewrote another piece that I wasn't happy with. And then I came back and I was like, what the hell is the story I'm trying to tell here? And, it's like having a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that you've just tipped out of the box. And it's just a whole lot of pieces. Kids are totally little sponges, and that's why, because the brain isn't theta. It just all goes straight in. So however you are, they're imitating you totally. So I have this box of pieces, and I'm trying to tell a story that makes sense and doesn't hop from this to that to the next. And it's like, how do I do this? And so I just thought, well, I got to get in somewhere. So I took a piece and I wrote that, and it's actually the story of leaving your jacket behind. And then I thought about that. The thing where your brain's so busy, you're doing your thing and you're just automatically doing your morning routine because you've memorized it, right? It's the 95% of you that you just know how to do, and you get up and do your day and you go to the same place and do the same people and the same things. And that's memorized. And you don't have any say in it because you're busy thinking about what you're going to do. And while you're thinking, that other 95% of you that's memorized is just doing what you've learned to do. It's very automatic. It's just unconscious until you start to pay attention. And it's like, oh my God, I had no idea that I do that every day. Oh my heavens, I had no idea that person, every time I see them, there's a inside me, because I'm just busy squashing it down because I'm busy living my life and doing my thing. But actually that person always pang inside me. And I'm just, it's unconscious for me to ignore it. All that stuff goes down. So I started off by writing this thing about that and talking about the older the older brain, the brain that we have once we're 7 or 8 or 9, get older, the brain speeds up and we can start to think and analyse. And then I thought, but hang on, I'm still writing about theta. That's going to be an alpha. I don't even know where this piece that I just told you about is going to fit yet. But I went back to the other bit because I was thinking to talk about how important theta is for the child, because it makes them into little sponges, because they are in hypnosis for 5 solid years, and that's after they've spent 2 years being asleep with their eyes open, just soaking all the information up, because that's how long it takes for a child just to download the operating system. And this is how you function as a human being in my environment, in my society. You just can't go to school and learn all of that. So it really was, I built a piece of the jigsaw and then thought, this is not the center, it goes over there somewhere. So let me just look at the notes. I talked about the adult and the older brain. I pushed it down from 2 to 7. We're still building the operating system from information in our environment, whatever it is that comes to us most often, most strongly, and lasts the longest, is what's going to make the impression. It's the synaptic connections that get fired and fired and fired again and again that they get stronger. And if they're fired really strongly, then they get fired again. And if they get fired for a long time, then the connections get stronger and stronger and stronger. And those are the synaptic connections, the memories, because that's what a synaptic connection is in the brain, that get kept. Because if a connection isn't used at the age of 2, like at the age of 2, a toddler has more connections in their brain than they have in their entire life. And then what happens is there's this massive pruning that goes on. And by that I mean that there's a genetic program that runs in the body that says if this synaptic connection isn't being used, we got to pull it apart. Because the chemistry that's used to hold that connection together, we need that for something else. The body doesn't waste things. So all of these synaptic connections that are obsolete, or they were needed when you were 6 months old for a reflex that you grew out of, gone. And it's a big pruning process in the brain. But the connections that get used most often, for longest and strongest, they're going to stick around, and this becomes our unconscious wiring, right? And remember that every time, the stronger, the longer, the more often, it's conditioning the body to be a certain way. So our cells, the receptors on our cells, they get programmed by the most common experiences that we have, and the strong ones and the long ones, to behave in a certain fashion and to make our DNA work in a certain fashion, which means our bodies work in a certain fashion, because all the DNA does is it makes proteins that are responsible for how our body looks and works and whether it works or not. So how long, how often, how strong, really important. And that doesn't change. It doesn't stop being important through our lives. But the reason why it's really important in our first 7 years is because we don't have an analytical mind to say, I don't like that. You're telling me I'm a bad person or a naughty person or I'm ugly or I'm stupid or whatever. You're right. We don't have a brain to say, you're wrong. That's not true. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I'm a genius. I'm lovely. I'm clever. And so all of those messages that we get, which you think, oh God, I'm just useless at this. And again, it's not about blame, because remember, our parents were kids once and they had their own experience. But this is where a lot of it comes from. It doesn't stop once we're age 7, but we have an opportunity to disagree. So that is a chunk of why 95% of who we are is just totally unconscious, because we are busy focused on the tasks that we're doing, and meanwhile all of those really useful and necessary unconscious memories are running our body for us. And we know how to talk, and we know how to walk, and we know how to do our skills that we learned, and it's just unconscious. We don't need to think about it. It just runs. It's just like you push a recording and it plays. So okay, why is that useful to us now? The piece that I started to explain, which actually needs to come down the track, more about theta. If you understand, a child's in theta for 5 years, and that's why it's important, because everything goes in. But I wanted to talk a bit more in detail. When you go to bed at night, And you lay yourself down and, unless you're stressed, we're not talking about that. We're talking normal situation, person going to sleep, lay down, you just sort of chill out. Hopefully you're warm and comfortable. And what happens? Your body starts to relax. Your mind slows down. And the body, it gets heavy, it gets cozy, it gets comfortable, then it stops wanting to move. And then just like when you're waking up in the morning and you're between worlds, you're going to sleep. And again, the mind is awake and aware, but the body's actually gone to sleep. And the point that I'm making for myself, if nothing else, because I've learned how to do this, and it's taken me some practice, is that we can actually learn how to get our body into theta, to go to sleep. Put the body to sleep, leave the mind awake. What that means is that the 95% of us, most of it is stored in our body. Our body's asleep. It's gone. That 95% that is there running our body and running our life while we're awake, when the body goes to sleep and the mind is still awake, all of that's gone. And I've experienced this myself in my meditative practice. When I get into theta, and I know how theta feels now, my mind is free. My body just stops. It's asleep, even though I'm sitting up. And my mind is awake and aware. My body's asleep. And now I can think a different thought, and I don't have that thing that roars up from inside me and says, nah, you can't do that. Forget it. That's stupid. You failed 50 times and you think it's going to be any different this time? Forget it. You're an idiot. You're stupid. You can't do it. That voice is gone because my body's asleep. So that's the value of theta. If you can learn how to use it for yourself, the 95% of you that is unconscious simply goes away if you can get deep enough. And it's such a relief. All of that is gone. And I can change it. I can actually put in a new program. That's the whole reason why people go and have a hypnosis therapy. Because if the hypnotist is skilled enough, and I know it doesn't always work, because you have to get deep enough. If the program went in theta, if somebody said you're stupid, you're bad, I think you're disgusting, and they said it over and over again, and and there was lots of emotion and a repetition, and it went on and on and on forever. Well, that's pretty deeply wired in your neural architecture and your body, because the chemistry that comes with that has conditioned your body to be used to feeling like that. And the body wants what it knows, so your body wants to keep feeling that way because it's familiar. But if the body's asleep, then it doesn't get to argue. And I can think a different thought about myself when I'm in theta, because I've learned how to do it. The point I'm making is it's a skill. If you understand that this is where the stuff often goes in, and why you can't just make up your mind to feel differently, because it's all there. You can, but it has to be really, really strong, and then you have to follow it up. It's not going to change in a minute because it was laid down over 5 or 7 years. So this is the thing. This is why it's important to understand that these programs got loaded into our operating system at that time, and they needed to be so that we could survive in our environment. But also to understand that if you want to change them, you have to be working at the same level that you were in when they got loaded. And that's why you can't just say, I'm going to feel good about myself now, when you felt crappy for 30, 40, 50 years. Because your body's used to feeling that, and it doesn't want to change because it thinks that change is dangerous. And your brain's got a whole lot of hardware up there that's really used to firing, and unconsciously, while you're busy doing other things. You're busy doing your work, and that person walks in and you don't even notice them, but your brain does, and suddenly you're feeling that anxious, upset, angry thought. That's how it works. So this is the 95% of us, and this is how a good chunk of it gets laid in. It's not all of it. We keep developing these things all through our lives, and we can change them all through our lives. But to understand how and why it happens in our first 7 years, I find really empowering. It's like, okay, well, how do you change it? I'm not talking about that yet. I've still got to develop my own tools. Point is, people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is my inspiration, has taught me how to change it. They actually know. So you can look that up. You can Google him and learn about what he is teaching now. It's mind-blowing. It's amazing. There's incredible things going on. But it's been life-changing for me. And so that is why this is my service, is to write it and make it available as best I can for other people. That's my journey. So I'm so grateful for you sharing it with me. It's wonderful to see you here. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing, for liking and subscribing. And I'll be back in another week with another one of these. And I'll tell you what has been created then. Until then, lots of love. Bye-bye.